Okay. All right. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and get started in the interest of time. Thank you, everybody who's on with us, for joining us for this third installment of the Own Your Operations webinar series. Hosting and joining me today are a couple of Dude veterans, Shannon Hines, as well as Patrick Tierney are joining us, as you can see on video. Shannon has about 14 years in healthcare, serves the Dude in post-sale implementation, is extremely well-versed in accreditation compliance. She's product and implementation expert, from the consulting side, and has worked with clients in both the acute and senior living facilities. So she knows both sides of the healthcare house for us here. And she's been an instructor at Dude University as well, well revered within the community. Many of you who are on the phone have no doubt worked with her and are familiar with her. So Shannon, welcome to the webinar this afternoon.
Thanks, Mitch.
All right. And also with us is Pat. Pat Tierney he is an enterprise solutions consultant. He conducts a lot of our product demonstrations, both in-house as well as in various trade shows and conferences throughout the country. His expertise expands well into the challenges within acute care, especially around compliance, and is an all-around subject matter expert on all things TheWorxHub, and serves as an advisor in a few roles here at the Dude as well. So Pat, it's great to have you on as well.
Glad to be here. Thanks, Mitch. Hope everyone's having a good Wednesday. And hopefully we can provide some good use of your time here today.
Wonderful. Myself, I'm Mitch. I'm one of the senior account executives here. I work with our clients on the acute side, mostly through the Gulf and in other parts of the country as well. I've been with the Dude almost 4 years now, and love the conversations and love the opportunities to partner with folks. I'll be your MC for today. I'll be helping us to navigate, and I'll be fielding questions as well. So as we go through our session today, as you have questions, please feel free to put those in the chat or the Q&A, and I'll be monitoring those channels and be happy to share those with our panelists today, Shannon and Pat, as we navigate through our conversation. So that said, it's a pleasure to join the webinar with you guys. Just a quick question, Shannon and Pat, what does life safety mean to you?
I mean, for me, it's one of those things I do every day with my clients. We spend tons of hours and time setting up life safety compliance within their accounts and helping me help them manage all the data that goes with it. So I will admit I am a nerd when it comes to the code, so I enjoy talking life safety.
Wonderful. And Pat, how about you? What does life safety mean to you?
Yeah, it's so much more than I like. When I first started working with some different organizations, it maybe just kind of it's what we sort of lump into compliance. But if you really break it down, it's like we're not just managing like a manufacturing plant with parts and pieces. These are people, and like the job of the healthcare organizations is to keep them safe. So I really take pride in our part of what the TheWorxHub team sort of allows a lot of our clients to do and keeping people safe and doing no harm. So it's a near and dear to my heart sort of concept.
Yeah, and I would echo that too. One of my favorite things is to work with clients and prospective clients, talking about what some of their challenges are, looking at survey readiness, looking at documentation strategies and techniques internally, and some of the tools in use or not as well in use as they might be. The opportunity to partner with an organization who wants to perform better and looking proactively at preparing their facilities for surveys, for inspections, and all around better outcomes for patients as well. I love that. Those are some of the best conversations we have, quite frankly, and they drive a lot of the development that we do around products. So that for me is bringing it all together. So great to again have you both. I'm looking forward to our conversation today. So just to give you a little bit of background in terms of who the Dude is. With the Dude, We've got a lot of information here, but we have just over, if we can actually move to the next slide there. So with the TheWorxHub community, just north of 1,600 clients, processing a little north of 64 million work orders that represent over 1.1 million assets and 375,000 users. That's a lot of use in the platform. With the first CMMS platform on the internet, 20 years and running, we're dedicated to helping operations leaders do the best work of their lives, like you. We're real people working on real challenges and helping to provide real solutions by adopting feedback from our community that then becomes the points of which we develop our solutions. So thank you for all of your feedback, everyone who has worked with us, and we look forward to feedback from those who are thinking about working with us. The TheWorxHub community is diverse. We cover a wide array of facilities that range from critical access healthcare facilities to acute facilities. And even as mentioned with Shannon, we work with senior living facilities as well. So we run a wide range of every healthcare facility in the country, and we work in a couple of different countries as well. So it is a growing community. So that, in addition, we work with about 15 integrations partners, helping to really ensure seamless interoperability and communication with on-site systems. So with that, really kind of the conclusion of our introduction slides, I'm going to step back a little bit and I'll take a look at the questions as they come in. But Pat and Shannon, where would you like to start?
I think we're going to start kind of at the beginning, which I think is handling kind of life safety assets and what to do with them. So Pat, I don't know if you want to start pulling up the product, but so kind of when we start talking about life safety assets in this webinar, one of the things I think a lot of our clients or prospects that we talk to come from is, historically speaking, we have always tracked life safety assets on spreadsheets. Code mandates that we know what's in our building and where it is, but historically speaking, all of that was done in Excel, which we save locally on our computers, maybe on a kind of a file share sort of program, but not typically initially put into our CMMS solutions. We spend a ton of time doing that with our utility systems and becoming experts as far as being able to risk assess it and do PMs and reporting within our CMMSs, but life safety always kind of seems to live in Excel. And I know for last several years that I've been doing this with my own clients, we've kind of tried to switch that mindset so that we can use the power of our CMMSs to track all of our life safety equipment, and not just those utility systems that we have to maintain for maintenance. So, you know, with the utility systems, we spend a lot of time building in assets and mapping them out, and we'll do the same thing with our life safety equipment, because it's really easy, especially in our solution, to do as far as getting in there, adding an asset quickly, giving us the ability to pick out where it is exactly in our building, add all kind of those model numbers, serial numbers. In this case, we have a fire extinguisher up on the screen, so that we can start attaching these to PMs, or be able to quickly maintain reporting within our system. One of the cool features of the software also allows us to add these in on the fly from our mobile devices. So if our technicians are in the field, we can go through, pull up our mobile devices, go down there and click add that new fixed asset. So as we're, you know, replacing a piece of equipment, or if we have to put a new fire extinguisher in, or maybe Fire Door Solutions just left and replaced a fire door for us, we can come in right into the system and in real time add that information, which will instantly update on our reporting, giving us those kind of quick and easy ways to access that information going forward. And again, because we're a completely web-based program, what it allows us to do is access it from anywhere. So we're not reliant upon those spreadsheets that may be on someone's computer or on someone's flash drive somewhere. So being able to access them in real time. So,
Shannon, I'm sorry, Pat, go right ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I know for our end, just maintaining these lists of all these assets can feel like a real uphill battle. I talked to A client, as soon as it's probably like 3 or 4 months ago, that one of the main tasks their technicians were sort of given was if you come across anything new, to continually add them into their version of their spreadsheets. And they were finding regularly anywhere from like 50 to 100 assets. I mean, this was a very large health system, but they were finding tons and tons every month, which, gives you some concern, because you're like, are those things on PMs? Are those things already identified somewhere? So current and updated in the software and being able to run quick lists, I think, is the goal for a lot of sites that we work with.
And I think that's kind of the power that the CMMS gives us too, because I know with some of my clients, the other issue that goes along with that is you have 14 different versions of the spreadsheet, and every single one of them has different numbers on it. So we end up with, do we have duplicates? Do we have ones that were missing? So being able to kind of track it in here, where we'll be able to tell if there's one that's already added on, if we have PMs on it, kind of all that. That makes it much easier than just an Excel spreadsheet, which may not have any validation or anything built into it. So, and then again, that one key place. So,
one question that's come up in the questions, can the application handle multiple regulatory bodies code compliance? And for example, they list the DNV, Joint Commission, et cetera.
yes, it definitely can. A lot of our clients are Joint Commission based, so you'll see things like up on the screen right here are elements of performance from the Joint Commission that we can link through to our assets to show in reports as well. But we also work with clients that are DNV, do CMS directly instead of going through one of the AHJs, so most definitely. So I think one of the nice things about putting our assets directly into the account like this is being then able to pull real-time lists. So the thing with Excel spreadsheets is being able to making sure that we go back and add it and edit it in. But with the software, everything's updated in real time. So we can see everything quickly, especially we have some ability to save reports in the system. So we can actually pre-build a lot of our reports and lists like this. So if we wanted just our fire extinguishers or just our fire doors, we can pre-build all those reports into the software to come back and be able to quickly access them and pull that information up. So.
And speaking of integrations, there's another question that I think may dovetail nicely actually into the fire protection side of things, with NFPA code, of course, being referenced there. Can the application sync with the fire alarm control panels to pull asset lists? And they add as well clarification, assets already have unique addresses in FACP.
So it's, historically speaking, we don't actually pull it right from the device itself, but if you can get an output of it, we can easily populate that information into a spreadsheet to populate into the software. Whenever we do client builds and site builds with clients, we have spreadsheets that will populate and put in hundreds of thousands of pieces of equipment, especially if you're coming from other softwares. We have the ability to migrate data in, and then we have the ability to use those spreadsheets as kind of those gateways to get all that information into the account. So I have had some clients in the past do one for utility systems and one for life safety equipment to help kind of manage that as we build out accounts and get all that information in. So,
Makes sense.
The other thing with adding this in, especially for my Joint Commission facilities that do have to risk assess equipment, once it's all in there, what we can start doing is easily tracking our risk assessment if we're running on the alternative equipment maintenance, right on our asset profiles, as well as link our assets to PMs. Because one of the biggest things is making sure over the course of those 12 months, and as we're leading into survey windows, is making sure that we do in fact have PMs on all the assets that need PMs on them, particularly our life safety equipment. It's really easy when you have hundreds of thousands of or hundreds of fire extinguishers or fire doors to go in and see whether or not we have them all attached to PMs. We have canned reports that are pre-built into the software that allow us to track that. As far as being able to pull those reports back up and keep track of that. In fact, a lot of times with clients will do what I call administrative PMs to set up regularly recurring work orders to check our asset counts, to check that we have risk assessed all our assets and make sure that we have PMs on them, and kind of build it in as part of our kind of everyday or quarterly, semi-annually kind of way to make sure that we have that information in there. The software is designed so that depending upon your policies and procedures, especially for risk assessment, we can get that built into the account. You guys will have the ability to customize it exactly to what your policies say, and we can build those thresholds in. And again, this gives us the ability to be able to track those assets, report back on our high risk ones, ensure that we have PMs in place for all the ones that we need them for. So.
And so just to clarify, this is not Dude prescribing a particular risk assessment, correct?
Correct. Your implementers work with you to actually get your actual policy and procedure built into your account. So I know when I do this with my clients, I actually ask them to send me policies ahead of time. This way we can get familiar with it. And then when we do actually do the training on it, I have something in a sense real time to build right in, and we can get it built in a call so we can start risk assessing those assets right away. Again, especially with some of the high volumes that life safety gives us, being able to kind of do it one at a time, getting all that information in there makes it much easier once we're doing it here, as opposed to, again, on Excel spreadsheets. So the other thing too, again, ties back to our PMs. One of the things that the software allows for, especially when we're doing PMs, is asset grouping. So when we're looking at building our life safety assets, fire extinguishers, for example, we have to determine when we're building those PMs, how many work orders we want to see, whether or not it's a kind of a one-to-one relationship so that each fire extinguisher has its own monthly work order, or we can use the ability to group them together. And while this is something your implementers will always work with you and starts building, I tend to like to do my monthly ones as individual work orders, as crazy as that seems for some of my bigger clients, but we can employ some other tools that the software has, which we'll talk about in a second. Whereas my annual, I like to put all of my fire extinguishers on one. Again, it's about tracking. My monthly, I'm likely doing in-house, so I want to make sure my guys know exactly where their fire extinguishers are in their checks, which ones they've finished, which ones they haven't finished. If they get pulled away and someone has to pick up for them, they have a quick and easy way to tell which have been checked and which haven't. But for my annual, because I have a vendor coming in to do that, I don't necessarily want individual work orders for each one of those annually. But I do want to list them all in a PM because I do want to check to make sure my vendor, when he gives me that final report, has in fact checked every single one of my fire extinguishers before I file that as done.
So Shannon, when you're going through and working with clients on this, does it feel like they have like preferences one way they've done it, like 1 PM for a whole bunch of work orders, or does it feel like it's I don't know, like across the board, like how frequent people are doing it a certain way?
A lot of times it depends on the asset itself, like the type of asset it is. I have fire doors, for example, clients. Almost always do I get individual work orders for our fire doors, especially depending upon where they are in our clinical spaces within the buildings, in case they are receiving damage from stray carts and portable x-ray machines. Then it's going to give us some really nice detailed information to be able to see kind of why does this door keep getting damaged. I had a client a couple of years ago that they moved to one-to-one PMs as far as one fire door per one work order on their PMs, and started being able to track that there was one particular fire door that always had major dents and dings in it, and they couldn't figure out why initially. But because they were able to track it down to the work order, what they originally discovered was when radiology was coming into the unit with the portable x-rays, the corner was kind of tight. So when they were turning the corner, they were catching the fire doors into the unit. In the end, what they ended up doing is putting like a red stripe on the floor and doing some in-service training with radiology to basically be like, you need to put the machine on the other side of the red tape. And it cut down on the damage to the doors. But they were able to do that because they were able to track that door specifically to see kind of that same recurring damage every time they checked it. So what is causing that? So I think it gives a lot of powerful information going forward to be able to look at those individual things.
Another question for you here too, while we're talking about asset-driven response. So there's a question from the community: can the application react to meter readings? And they provide an example. If a monthly generator test results in a reading below 30% of nameplate kilowatt, it will automatically fail PM and generate corrective work action work orders.
We can do that. So within the software on assets, we can build in meters. And what that does is give us the ability to build in thresholds for a lot of those readings. And then when we trigger it on the PM, if something comes without outside that threshold, we can actually have an automatic work order triggered. I'm actually a big fan of using that feature or some of our others on the PMs with like pass-fail questions, because I want to make sure that I'm completing my PMs on these assets on time. So I've done the check, I've discovered a deficiency, I'm going to close out that work order or that PM work order on time for my 100% completion and 100% on time. But I'm going to keep out those open work orders for those identified deficiencies so I know that I can go back and finish them in a timely manner as well. Keeping in mind that my asset's going to be on everything, linking it all together so that, again, as long as the asset's built into the account, we have a really nice detailed history we're building between PMs and corrective work orders. So
wonderful. And I think that ties in as well quite nicely. So we've discussed the simplified tracking, increased documentation for PMs and risk assessment. Pat and Shannon, could you talk a little bit about AEM? I know that's a pretty important area as far as documentation is concerned as well.
Yeah. So again, our return of equipment maintenance, more specifically for kind of our Joint Commission clients here, but what it allows us to do if we are running anything than our manufacturer recommendations on our PMs, so whether likely we changed the frequency of something, we have built into the tool the ability to track those AEMs, to label the work order, or excuse me, the assets as such, which would then follow that on the work order, and give us the ability to fill out the basically needed documentation behind that. This way too, again, coming back to those simple lists and simple ability to pull things out, this is a report filter for us. So we can pull back the list of AEMs or assets that are on an AEM quickly and easily from the software and provide that journal survey as needed. And this is another one of those tools that we can actually batch edit AEM. So if there's a whole group of assets that apply to this, we don't have to fill it out for every individual asset. We can apply it across the board. So as Pat's pulling up a report real quick, that shows that. So it gives us, again, that ability to pull back AEMs. We can see all those assets and report back on it. Because that is one of the requirements that at least Joint Commission has, is the ability to or the need to report back on anything that is running an AEM. So again, quick and easy in the software. In this case, without showing anything else. So we can pre-build that list, report specifically back on it. The Joint Commission asks for it. We're not pulling up an Excel spreadsheet that we now have to filter in front of them. We are pulling up a pre-built report that we can just pop in front of them and say, here are all my AEMs, without showing them any other assets in the meantime. And I think that's kind of really key when we start talking about reporting and documentation in the software. Once we have those assets built in, is that we can build stuff in a way that if Joint Commission asks for something, we can specifically show them that without opening up an entire can of worms. So.
And while we're on the topic of reporting, are there other areas that would be helpful for facilities, especially for joint or for compliance-driven reporting?
So my favorite one that I show clients, and Pat, you have a version of it saved and I love it, is what we call our PM monthly forecast report. So what it does is give us the ability to see the next 12 calendar months of assets, the list of the assets in the next 12 calendar months of when their PMs are due. So being able to go through and see, so in these fire doors specifically, like they're not getting surveyed, or they're getting surveyed quarterly, but then we have one that comes out outside the window. So it gives us the ability to take a look at our asset list and see who's got PMs, who doesn't have PMs, what's due when, to be able to load balance across the board. I work a lot with this report with clients when we are setting up new accounts, because I think one of the things, especially with asset-driven PMs, is trying to find a healthy balance over that 12 months. So we're not having months that we're completely, overloaded with PM work against our reactive work. So using this report to say, okay, well, I'm doing annual fire extinguishers in November. How many other annuals am I doing in November? This would be a vendor. But being able to kind of spread that out and balance it for the team as they go forward. Essentially in this case, so again, if I was a Joint Commission facility, here's my list of assets, my PM program that I could add to my building management program with my compliance codes on them. So my elements of performance for my fire extinguishers right here, tying this right back into our binders. So this one's one of my favorites. Essentially I work with new clients. This is probably one of the first reports we save as they're getting stuff built to use this. If an asset doesn't have a PM, it shows up as purple. So the goal for every new client is no purple on this report.
And just to tie that together too, this same report would also be advantageous for DNV, for AAHC, for other AHJs.
Yeah, definitely. So, because this is, the need to do PMs doesn't change based on your accrediting agency. So this again gives us the ability to make sure that we have those assets tied through the accounts, tied into their PMs, and the PMs up and running, no problem.
And speaking of standards, there's another question from the community. Who updates the Joint Commission EPEC descriptions when they change?
So it's done in-house by I don't know if Braden's still on the webinar, but Braden's been working on that recently. But we do that every, I think it's quarter, just go through, double check, make sure we're good as the code changes, because that never seems to happen. Joint Commission never changes their code. But yeah, it's something we stay on top of because it is so important to a lot of our clients to have that as part of their documentation. So we monitor Joint Commission changes and then come in here and make those changes reflective in the accounts.
And just to extend that question a little bit, I'll add on as well, and Pat and Shannon, you may want to discuss this, but with respect to updates to the software as well, we're rolling out it's every 2 weeks, right? It
is, yeah. So sometimes major updates and new products, and sometimes just quick fixes and updates. A lot of times based on ideas that are given to us by our own clients, who are using it every single day to help them maintain their buildings and their compliance. So
wonderful.
But yeah.
Okay, I think the next part of the agenda, we were discussing a little bit of reporting. Could you discuss barcodes a little bit? I know that's a pretty critical element of maintaining assets and various things throughout the facility. What do we have to share on barcodes?
Yeah, so let me go ahead and get my mobile up here. So, and I think this is a pretty key part. This ability to really leverage what you have as far as mobile technology with, everyone having smartphones, how inexpensive tablets are. It's pretty regular that we're talking to clients that are like, I want my stuff barcoded, particularly when it comes to the life safety side. So if you can see my device up here, we can make some really customized versions of what a user would see on a mobile device. If I was walking around and doing all my inspections for my fire extinguishers, you can see there's a tap to scan function right in the center. And essentially what it'll do, it's just going to use the rear facing camera for the device. So if we wanted to go up, we're not sure if we've inspected this one or not, scan that, and essentially it'll link all those records of whatever's happened to this fire extinguisher. So in this case, you can see a pretty complete history of, if we've done all of our monthlies when we should have. If there's an annual coming up that, again, we've got to talk to our vendors about. But you could essentially go in and mark them all complete from here. So to Shannon's point earlier, really just having a really robust history and being able to pull the records when you need to.
I have a lot of clients that actually use the barcodes from their day-to-day, especially with the PMs on some of the life safety stuff. Because again, there is a tremendous amount of inventory count for this. So when we go up and go to service a fire door, how do we find that particular fire door's work orders in our list and queue of work orders that are in there? And we do have ways to do it with filters and searches on the desktop or even on the mobile, but the barcode gives you so much power in that you just walk up, pull up your phone, scan it, and instantly those open work orders show up. Especially when you have someone that is like, maybe they have part of the day blocked to do the fire extinguishers or do fire doors, exit signs, emergency lights. They can scan and go and close them out as they finish them. So again, doing it real time. So if someone does get called for an emergency, we know exactly which ones are done and closed and which ones are left. So again, and it makes it kind of that workflow and that management from the day-to-day much easier than just having either list or paper and making sure we're checking things off as we go and then making sure the next person gets that same copy of the list. This is all done real time, changes real time, updates real time. So it's a really powerful tool. With fire doors, it's my favorite. That's the one that I have a lot of clients that talk about how this has made it so much quicker and easier for them to be able to just scan it and pull it up. Because again, it pulls up the work history. It'll pull up any open PMs. It'll pull up any open work orders. So kind of gives them a snapshot of everything that they need, especially if they're there doing a PM and there's open work orders. We can now see both of them together. So why we're there and we can do both, why not do both? So, which when we're just going from a checklist isn't always the most efficient.
Right. And speaking of life safety and fire doors, I think that actually provides us a pretty nice segue into the next section, where we really dive into some more of the space management components. Shannon, Pat, do you want to transition to the space management side and share a little bit of what we have here?
Sure. So what we're looking at is our space management dashboard. It is one of our newer tools. What it gives us the ability is to load our life safety drawings and have them within our account. So we have a couple of really cool features that we can use. And we can tie this back to our assets, to our work orders, with our life safety layers. So speaking about our fire doors in particular, we can turn it on and see based on our life safety drawings, if that's a layer that we have there, all of our fire doors listed out. I like to give this as an idea to clients who have new technicians. You have someone that's going to inspect the fire doors. Well, if you have that layer within your life safety drawings, we can show them the drawing before they go out and try to find all these doors. Or even if they're out in the field and are using a tablet, that we don't have a fully mobile capable version of Space yet, we can load this on a tablet from the software and have it in the field with us. Be able to see, okay, this is where we are. If we pull up our firewalls during our EOC rounds, this is a great way to check for, doing really kind of pinpointed check for penetrations to making sure we are in fact looking at a firewall when we pop a ceiling tile, if we're doing that during our EOC. So I think it kind of digitizes a lot of really powerful information that historically has sat in back conference rooms or on frames on walls or rolled up in those great big poster tubes that you basically roll out during survey. This now gives you kind of in the field use of those to help make it easier for our technicians to find things, to use it when we're doing our EOC rounding to see we're in fact looking at a firewall to check for penetrations, and kind of giving it kind of a much more interactive piece than just a printed drawing on a desk. So and then two, once we have those drawings in there and mapped like this, we can now start using this to see our active work orders within our accounts. So seeing where we have, in this case, a clogged sink, what room that's in, especially if you have new technicians, giving them the ability to find that in the drawings. The same is going to be true of our assets. So once we get our assets in, we actually can see pins of those on there. So we'll know kind of what's where within the confines of those spaces. So including our life safety equipment if it's in there. We can click on those pins and see, okay, there's an eye wash station in the lab, for example. This way we know kind of where we have to pinpoint going forward. And there's filters on the drawing so that we can do that. So if I said I did just want to find my life safety equipment, we can do that.
I can see this as a pretty nice or handy training guide as well, especially if somebody's new to the facility and may not be familiar with where assets are located in the facility. They can look at the map, or even extending that to, say, requesters, where maybe I don't know what the name of this physical location is, but I can point to it on a map, right?
Right, yes. So yeah, it puts a really nice visual, which I think for some people is a really powerful image, to be able to look at that drawing and find those particular spaces that they may not be familiar with. Or if I do send my staff out to go find fire doors to do their inspections, having that kind of that visual representation with them. Our exit lights here, so.
And there is actually a question from the community, and I think we're gonna, just after this question, Shannon and Pat, I think we'll probably go to the first poll question as well.
Yeah.
But the question is, can the drawing show where open work orders are located?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that first pin there, these work orders, that work order tab, these are open work order pins. It shows both corrective work orders as well as PM work orders, all in one space. So gives us that kind of visual. So in this case, we've got 5 open fire extinguisher PMs here. It's likely that in this space or in this area, there's 5 different fire extinguishers that we have to go and check. So.
Okay, wonderful. I think we'll go to that first poll question. So does your current solution include an integration for life safety drawings? There's a couple of there's a couple of answers on the screen. If you can see that poll, we'll leave this up for a moment. Please respond to that poll question, and we will continue in our conversation.
Oh, I was gonna say, I kind of want to vote yes, mine does. But it says at the bottom I can't vote, so.
Nice try. The other one, Shannon, I wanted to mention, I don't know how much you come across this, but I've had a few folks that have asked if this was the sort of thing they could put their shutoff valves into as part of the drawings. For like staff that like, hey, if the water is free flowing, how do we cut it off? To expose this information in the program so they could see it.
Yeah, no, definitely. So as long as they have what I keep calling a layer. So historically speaking, what we've done so far with a lot of clients are layered PDFs. So as long as one of those PDF layers are in fact those shutoff valves, we can load it in. And it just would pop up here as another option on the side. So.
I love that one. That could be the difference between 10,000 gallons and 100,000 gallons. So that seems like a pretty logical one.
Because you always wonder if water starts flowing, like hopefully someone's gonna be there that knows where the shutoff is. I was on site with a client, and they had an electrical subcontractor in doing some work above the ceiling. And the guy was standing on the ladder and turned real quick and knocked a sprinkler head off. I have never seen that much water in my life. And as luck would have it in that scenario, their technician who handles a lot of the sprinkler systems happened to be there. So he was able to go and hit the valves and turn it off. It only ran for about, 4 or 5 minutes because he needed to get a ladder. It was still enough to do quite a bit of damage. But in that scenario, that's if he didn't happen to be standing there and we could just pull up the drawing real quick to see where the shutoff is, it saves a lot of time, money, and heartache for everybody. Because in this particular scenario, it burst on the 4th floor, but that water went all the way down to their lower level by the time they got it off. So,
Yikes.
and the
Wow.
poor electrician who was standing there was a bit damp. So,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
Mitch, how'd our poll results go?
Pretty even split. I'd say about 40% yes, 40% no, and a few clients that are on with us as well. So kind of half and half.
So I think, it's one of those things that, and I mean, even when I was in the hospital, like if we needed to pull life safety drawings or something, like they always were just rolled on a desk somewhere. So I think what this side of the product does is makes this a much more usable tool for our day-to-day operations, besides just making sure they're updated for survey. And if we change the location of a fire, of a sprinkler head or something, we updated the drawings. The other thing too, what Pat pulled up here is our usage. So we can start looking at how we're utilizing the spaces within our building force, within the space the module. So kind of giving us a breakdown of what percentage it is going to be patient care areas, what percentage is office. Just another really powerful visual to see kind of how we're utilizing the spaces within our buildings, as we have to get more judicious with how space is being used. If we grow space, move space. I know when I was in the hospital, I felt like I moved my office about once every 6 months, just as departments needed more space and things like that. So just really seeing kind of that visualization of what we're really utilizing. Percentage is based on that floor.
I agree.
Because again, when we're looking at the drawings, we typically load them by the floor. So it's kind of looking at that data in a lens specifically. So
Yeah. Okay, you should see a poll question come up here in just a moment as well. We'll give you a moment to answer that question. So is every employee in your facility that has attended RACE and PASS training able to access your life safety drawings? So that should be every employee in your organization, right? Couple of responses coming in. Interesting. So it looks like a little more split on this one in the favor of no. It looks like a number of the responses are no, predominantly no now, that every employee in the facility is not currently able to access life safety drawings. You guys' thoughts on that?
I know when I was in there, like it was one of those like focusing more on like if I could articulate pass and race. I knew where the life safety drawings were. So if an inspector asked, I could tell them. Did I ever really go down there and ever look at them unless I absolutely needed to? No. I think, again, because we've lived in a world where they were kind of static images hung on a wall down the maintenance corridor or rolled in a back office until we needed them for either survey or a project. Whereas again, this I think opens up some really valuable information into the world, especially during survey, especially for the random kind of staff questioning, that if someone did ask, we have the ability to be like, oh, wait, let me show you right here from the palm of my hand. So
Shannon and Pat, I think that actually concludes our agenda for today's session. Any last minute thoughts or any additional areas that would be helpful to share with our folks today?
I think it's one of those that, because life safety, again, especially in the hospital setting, is such an important part that at least always my goal with clients is to give them as much power for tracking and documenting it as possible. Especially when we get to times of pandemic and being able to like quickly manage those resources as buildings change, as we have to move stuff and retrofit, being able to kind of pull that information up to really be able to make those quick adjustments based on real-time data, giving them the most kind of powerful interaction they can with both the software and what's going on day to day in the facility.
Yeah, and I think from my perspective, I think one of the biggest things we hear as we're talking to organizations and getting them familiar with the software, and if they want to move forward with us, is they a lot of this stuff is tracked. It's just either in a very generic CMMS platform, or it's done in a few different platforms. It's not really consolidated. So our goal was to really bring a lot of this sort of idea of managing life safety and the maintenance really into one platform. So that big piece of where I think people find the value. And then the second part, if you can see your screen, is really kind of backing it with the client support side. So making sure that even though we have like really great fancy tools that have lots of code and all that stuff, that there's actually people that pick up the phone like Shannon and can actually implement you correctly and can actually get you to the promised land if you see your organization wanting something better. So.
Shannon and Pat, world of information here, wealth of information. I really appreciate the opportunity to share the moment with you this afternoon and to go through great content. Any last thoughts before we wrap up?
I don't really have anything.
Okay.
No, just thanks to all the folks that are out there, really just doing this every day in, day out. And, we really honor the to work with the folks that we do. It's really great pleasure.
Especially right now with everything so busy. Thanks for coming to hang out with us today.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, with that, we thank you again for joining us in the session, kind of bringing it all together. We have a solution for every operational need and challenge, providing more efficient and automated documentation, really to dovetail naturally with your standard process and compliance work throughout the facility. We do want to make you aware there is an upcoming session in September called TheWorxHub Connect. We're going to be doing 2 half-day sessions on September the 15th, and we've got information available. So stay tuned for that. Shannon, I know you're going to be presenting, and I think, Pat, you're presenting as well or helping to run. So you want to take just a quick moment and share a little bit about what you're going to be discussing?
Yeah, so I am doing 3 classes this